Hey everybody, welcome back. For those of you new here, my name is Jeremy. Today we're going to be talking about my new addiction. Yeah, like I need another hobby, huh? Check it out. Alright, so for those of you who remember the video from a couple weeks ago about should I get a 3D printer or not? Well, I did. I ended up getting the Anycubic Photon. So I've made this video probably about 5 times now, and I keep on going back to remake it because it ends up being so incredibly long because there's so much to this 3D printing hobby that I was unaware of at the time. However, I have got minis galore now. I mean, I have so many prints, and yeah, I mean, I learned that there's 101 ways to fell a print, and 100 out of that 101 are usually operator error. So, you know, when we get the stuff dialed in, you're actually able to turn out a good quality product on a fairly consistent basis. However, there are some outside factors that you have to consider. I was running some successful prints, everything was coming out beautifully, and then all of a sudden for several print runs I could not get anything to stick to the build plate. Well, there's a storm system that moved into my area and the humidity went way up. I mean, humidity affects everything else in the hobby. Why not printing? So I should have probably thought about that. But there's 100 little tiny details like that you gotta factor in. Now, the overall of this, and this isn't one of those videos where it's give you an honest review. Well, as opposed to a dishonest review, I guess. I'm not being paid any way, shape, or form for this. I'm not. I wasn't given anything to do this, but I really enjoy this Anycubic Photon. So once the world got locked down, 3D printing took off because a lot of people are stuck at home, and of course you couldn't go buy your minis, so we had to print them. Alright, so for a minute there it was hard to get replacement parts for like your LCD screen or your FEPs that they're all consumables that are part of the printer that I didn't take into account in the beginning. Resin prices were up a little bit, and this is just the resin printing realm. I'm sure on the other side of things, the FDM, I'm sure they had their own issues for supply chain issues. However, this is actually a good thing, I think. I think because the hobby took off so much, that you're starting to see these mono screens come out. These are screens that are specifically built for 3D printing, as opposed to taking an old cell phone screen and putting it into a machine. What this is going to do for the hobby is going to make the prints a lot faster and a lot more accurate, crisper detail, all good, right? The more of this technology jump that we could get into this realm, the better the hobby is going to be ultimately. So now on to the addiction. My sea of gray has overwhelmed my desk at this point. There's so many cool files out there, so many, and I would love to print all the cool models I see. However, in the first month of having this printer, I've gone through 2 bottles of the 1,000 gram Anycubic water washable resin. In that, I have made a ton of models, and right about there you'll see some of those. I'll also put some pictures in here and throughout the video to show you. The hard part about this is I wasn't sure where to go with the video in the beginning, because like I said, there's so much. There's cost versus time. There's a lot of hidden time. There's a lot of different things with this hobby, with the printing, that I hadn't anticipated in the beginning. So I think what I did. So what I ultimately decided to do was just do this general video where I talk to you and tell you about A, I made the decision, B, I'm loving it, and kind of touch on a few things about the 3D printing world, and like I said, the technology, how it's getting better, and it seems like it's just going to skyrocket from here. I am, however, going to follow this video up with a few different videos from things that I've learned along the way, and that's what this channel's always been about, is just sharing what I've learned in this hobby with you. I've never claimed to be the best painter, because I'm just learning, just like you. And as I learn a new technique, I'll share it with you. I've shared my fails along the way, and unfortunately with resin printing, there are a lot of fails. There was a lot of successes too. I do have this one model. This one model is turning out to be the Moby Dick of my printing, right? Is the Great White Whale. And I've tried this print different ways 5 times, and I've failed every single time. I'm going to get this print eventually. I know it. That was my first attempt at that model. All of it stuck on the FEP. I've gotten portions of it to print out, but not all of it. This was my latest print. Fail on that model. I got a little bit of it to come out, but so I'm going to keep pushing, and eventually I will get that one too. So basically at this point, I'm going to show you some more detailed pictures of some of the prints that I have been successful with. There are a lot of cool companies out there. Patreon has some cool stuff, where like Artisans Guild has really cool minis. A lot of them are pre-supported. There is Titan Forge, again, on Patreon, pre-supported. Love the pre-supported whenever they work. And Artisans Guild has some stuff that's pre-supported. The supports were worked out by the 3D Printing Pro. Check out his YouTube channel. I found so much information that was useful on there for resin printing. There is a new one called Loot Studios. That's not on Patreon. It's kind of their own thing. There is My Mini Factory. There is Thingiverse. And then the newest one that I checked out on Patreon was Arch Filling Games. For these models, they have a lot that are pre-supported, but not all of them work. Not all the pre-supports work. Matter of fact, the one that I failed on 5 separate times is a pre-supported model, and I'm having to try and rework the supports because the supports keep failing, and so obviously that's not good, but the majority of them do work. Time on the hobby is another issue that I did not factor in. One of the major things that I did not think about whenever I first got into 3D printing, I knew that the kind of overall concept of it, how, you know, the build plate goes up and down and it slowly prints little tiny layers all the way through, and then that process in itself takes time for a print. You're like 5 hours on average for a decent size mini. However, there's a lot of work on the front side of that you don't see, or I don't think about. Supports, building supports, making the model printable, making sure you're supporting every single island on there, and making sure that this is not something that you're going to have to take and clean your vat and just nightmare. You could spend a lot of time supporting a model. A lot of time. That's why a lot of the pre-supported ones I talked about are really cool. But sometimes they need a little tweaking too. The bigger issue to me is you go with all this time to pre-support it, you print it, it's successful, yay. Then you gotta clean it up. And the cleanup process takes a little bit of time too if you want to do it right. There are some cool tech out there now. Anycubic has a wash and cure station. I would love to get my hands on that and see how that works, because right now I'm using like a 2-vat system where I have 1 vat of water where I rinse it out and take the brush that comes in with the resin kit and brush it off, and then I put it into this super cheap ultrasonic cleaner that I picked up for like $5. Okay. Then you dry it, then you cure it. You can cure it in the sun, or you can cure it with the UV light, however you choose to. But that process seems to be one of the bigger keys, and then removing the supports as well, to getting a successful print. If you are not taking your time removing the supports and cleaning the model, then all those hours and hours of work prior to that get ruined at the very end. Kind of scary. There are some models that have really good support systems. Again, 3D Printing Pro has this crazy support system that he uses that you could just kind of peel the model off, and it doesn't actually leave a whole lot of cleanup after the fact. There are some though that have support systems that really leave pock marks on the model, or big bumps that I have to spend a lot of time cleaning up. That is not time that I accounted for originally whenever I was thinking about this hobby in general. Now, one of the other things that I learned is to take my supports off before I cure the resin. Saves a bunch of cleanup, hard cleanup too. So if I take the print off, get it off the build plate, do my rinse, do my ultrasonic cleaner, remove the supports, back in the ultrasonic cleaner for a couple minutes, and then I go to cure, it is so much easier and so much cleaner. Again, the cleaning process takes time, but so worth it. I think that in itself is one of the largest areas where you can lose detail quick, is if you don't clean it right. Because when you're pulling it apart, right, you're taking it off the support, you take it off the build plate and everything, there's a fine layer of resin on the whole model. It could pull into detailed areas like eyes, mouth, belts, shield, inscriptions, anything like that. And if you cure it at that point, it's just going to take and cover up all that detail. Well, there's no point in that. You just ruined hours and hours worth of work. So take that extra step. Take that extra time to clean. So what I'm going to do is I will go back. I will make another video on kind of a cost analysis of what this actually is, because that's a big factor. Time will be another video that is a huge factor. And just kind of some small videos on steps along the way. I will keep on making my usual content as well. However, this new 3D printing thing is kind of an addiction at this point, so hang with me. As always, I do appreciate you. Thanks for watching, and If you don't mind, push that subscribe button. I know you guys know how to do that. And the likes and all that stuff and comments and yeah. One last question. So, it doesn't have to do with anything that I've talked about so far, but I've been debating lately on whether I should cut my beard or not. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, I'm going to link all the products down below in my Amazon affiliate store. Check it out. Help me out. Try and support the channel. I'm addicted. I need more resin. As always, I appreciate you. Thanks.